Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you've not yet subscribed to our channel, please take a moment to do that now. All right, so we are continuing on through our reading of From the Dust Return by Ray Bradbury. We are up to Chapter 1, The Time and the Place. Yesterday, we read the prologue in which Timothy, a young boy in a strange house, goes up to the attic to speak with his 1,000 times removed great-grandmother, who is an Egyptian mummy, and he sits down, rather, because she can't move, to tell him stories about the history of his strange family and his strange house on the eve of their homecoming celebration. This time, we are moving on to Chapter 1, which is entitled The Time and the Place, and we learn how the house arrived at its present location. First, there was a hill, and on it a tree, and one day a lumberman came by and he saw that tree, and he surmised that perhaps it had been there as far back as the time of Christ. One day, a massive storm boiled up above the plains, and it pulled apart anything that was not held down and moved it all to that location and constructed, supernaturally in some way, obviously, a magnificent house. And then settlers moving westward would come across this landmark, and they'd see it and they would think that perhaps I'm never going to see something so grand anywhere farther west. I should stay here. And so gradually a town was formed around that location, around this house. And for the time being, the house remained empty, awaiting its first inhabitants, who I presume to be the Elliot family. It's another short one. It is, I would say, a creation myth for the house of the Elliots. It even has references to the time of Christ and the time of Ramses. And so there's definitely allusions being made to that, and sort of comparing it to the strange creation out of this house. Sort of a Garden of Eden, if you will, out of nothing, or perhaps Eve out of Adam's rib. In a few pages, Bradbury manages to create a sense of history, a sense of legend around this house, and it really creates, despite the fact that we haven't seen any more of it than just the attic, it begins to form certain images in the mind, and it's laying down the base work for the rest of the book, which is, as I mentioned yesterday, it's a fix-up novel, so these are in fact all short stories, sort of held together by these framing devices. This is more perhaps of the framing device that we were introduced to in the first chapter, which is the grandmother telling the story, but pretty soon we're going to get right into the meat of the story. If there's any point to this, I want to say that it's the value of architecture for its own sake as an artwork that inspires awe and wonder and moves people to certain feelings, and it compelled these people to sort of form this town around this place. And I think if I had to guess, that's sort of the way that Ray Bradbury felt about libraries in particular. One of his favorite sort of structures in all the world was libraries, and he's said to have, spent countless hours in those rooms, reading these books, having these adventures, all within the space of one building. And in this case, it's a beautiful house awaiting the arrival of its family at some time to come, perhaps in Chapter 2. All right, next time we'll be looking at Chapter 2, Anuba Arrives, so be sure to turn in tomorrow or in a couple of days to see what that is all about. In the meantime, click on over to the Let's Talk Ray Bradbury playlist. We have now over 200 Ray Bradbury story reviews for you to read and to inspire conversation and perhaps help you in your studies. I know we get a lot of views from people who are assigned some of these stories in classes, and it's nice to talk to them as well. So thank you, and until next time, keep it creepy.